Hi all, Rick here with a video that I'm recording before this cold I have manifests. So, if anyone else spent time studying official Star Trek maps, they may have noticed that over here, beyond the Romulan and Klingon territory, is an area of space that is marked out as Federation owned, despite it being so removed. So, what goes on over here, and how much of it do we see? Well, for starters, we have seen several episodes that have been retroactively added to this side of the map, which I'll cover in this video as well as later additions to canon. For a start, it seems to be a rather sizable portion of the Beta Quadrant. Many maps have depicted Sector 001 as the dividing line between the Alpha and Beta Quadrants, from the galactic core running through Sector 001 to the edge of the Milky Way. Despite this, systems within that sector, primarily Vulcan and Earth, are considered Alpha Quadrant systems, which suggests that despite what some of these maps show, the terminus of the Alpha Quadrant is in fact on the right-hand edge of Sector 001, ensuring that at least these systems historically remain in the Alpha Quadrant. Powers like the Romulans and Klingons were also historically defined as Alpha Quadrant powers, but much of their territory lies in the Beta Quadrant, thanks to many of these maps creeping into canon. This is then explained by simply saying that they have enough of a presence in the Alpha Quadrant to warrant that designation, plus being heavily involved in Federation affairs. Yet this area of space lies beyond both of these other powers completely. Looking at it, surely the Romulans and Klingons would have expanded into this area at some point too, or at least have something to say about a foreign power gradually enclosing them despite the non-hostile intent of the Federation. Historically, both Romulus and Kronos have been enemies of the UFP, thus preventing a deep delve into this side of the galaxy, but tensions eased into the late 24th century, allowing for further exploration from Starfleet. This has led to numerous deep space outposts and starbases in the area, ensuring that vessels can continue to delve into this unknown. This makes a lot of sense too, considering the Enterprise D was involved in many Romulan and Klingon affairs, but the discovery of the Bajoran wormhole shifted Starfleet's attention in the opposite direction for a time, and the tempting new opportunities from the Gamma. As Starfleet ceaselessly continues to expand and explore, like water closing around the islands of other powers, they will mark off more and more systems on a galactic map, moving to fill every unclaimed crevasse they can. As always, this is a 2D representation of a 3D zone, so we can assume that Starfleet also travels up and over other borders. The numerous starbases out here are there to mitigate that travel through or near non-UFP space, for obvious reasons. Looking at these maps, you can somewhat understand the Klingons' early fear of the Federation, as it basically claimed any unexplored space as within their borders, especially when planets joined, and therefore their holdings became Starfleet's too. But this major swath of blue is not the full picture, as one of the guiding principles of the United Federation of Planets is that each member retains their sovereignty. Additionally, Starfleet does pass by many systems, and while there are many planets that lie within their borders, what about all those that are pre-warp or do not want to join? These zones are generally protected and respected by the Federation, but not included on most maps for practicality. Even Starfleet has yet to explore all of its, quotes, claimed space. So when you see a large swath of blue out here, all it really means is Starfleet has a major presence here and frequents through this area. But borders are only really defined when someone like the Romulans, or even the diminutive but powerful First Federation, demand a clear territorial distinction. When the Klingon and Federation are at peace, Starfleet can traverse through Klingon space to get to the other side, leading to greater exploratory opportunities. The Klingons too are not blind to the advantages of exploration, even if its priority takes a backseat too frequently, so they too can focus in this direction when they don't have to stare daggers at their neighbours. However, the Romulans are not receptive of visitors and pose a literal obstacle for Starfleet, leading to this enclosed shape forming. With the loss of Romulus, however, it really has opened up even more of this space for Starfleet to explore. The Free State seems to be the new dominant Romulan power, but its territory is far more loosely defined. So with all that out of the way, let's look at what we know lies here from canon and apocrypha. The Amargosa star that was collapsed by Tolian Soren in Star Trek Generations is now identified as being in the Beta Quadrant, and on several maps it is placed in this region of charted space. Amargosa was also the name of the globular cluster where they accidentally drew the attention of the Solanogen-based lifeforms from subspace. This means that the Enterprise D may have visited this area on several occasions, and in fact we see some other systems are now placed in this far region that did feature in the Next Generation. Zakdawn is right out on the edge, and Iconia has been placed here too. The planet Krios exists out here too, as seen in The Perfect Mate. This episode featured Starfleet acting as diplomatic mediators, so even out here, the Federation is lending its services as a neutral third party to others. Tyrelia was out this way, and was a real out-of-the-way posting that Commander Calvin Hutchinson once wound up on. Tessin, Costolian, and Mosselina are all located all the way out here, all of which were referenced or seen in The Cost of Living. The crash site of the Enterprise D was all the way in mostly unexplored space, the Viridian system. More recently, we saw that the commercial planet of Freecloud was located here and began life as a human colony world back in 2180 from some who did not wish to follow the direction of the recently formed United Federation of Planets. Additionally, Nepenthe, the retirement planet that the Rikers moved to, was in this northern corridor alongside the synth planet of Coppelius. In Apocrypha, there is also the Narendra station, Starbase 364, which sits at the passage of space between Klingon territory and the unexplored zone known as the Shackleton Expanse. This unexplored area is supposedly Starfleet's focus, but also their biggest obstacle, considering it is replete with anomalies and navigational hazards. Electromagnetic radiation and gravimetric eddies from numerous stellar clusters and subspace disturbances make it a temperamental sea. Most delves into this region have been through unmanned probes, but plenty of resource-rich worlds have been detected, making it a tantalizing prospect. That, and the added mystery of the unmapped zone. We also have numerous tales that cite clashes with the Orion Syndicate out in this direction. This again is due to the expanding nature of the Federation, forcing out the more criminal elements of the Syndicate, so by the late 24th century their presence as active pirates and such was very restrained, except in this fringe zone where Starfleet's presence was lacking. Then again, Ferengi traders, Klingon exiles, and more also operated out here, leading to generally a wilder frontier. Essentially, this is the sort of zone that something like the Galaxy-class starship was made for, which is why I'm happy to see some key systems from TNG end up out here, because it really does visually reinforce that exploration that Starfleet is known for. As another note, this area of the deep Beta Quadrant is also being scouted by the Klingon Empire and Romulans, considering the only other way for them to push would be into Federation space. So as much as Starfleet is set on exploring all this, they are likely going to have to do so while rubbing shoulders with their long-time chaperones. The Klingons have numerous systems here, even ones mentioned on screen like Hali, but like Starfleet, they considered this to be on the frontier of their territory too. Now, the Romulan neutral zone extends along the border of the Federation space here too, but terminates towards the Delta Quadrant edge, so there is some room here for the Romulans to continue to expand. With the supernova, however, and the dissolution of the neutral zone, Romulan refugees would have migrated away from the centre of Romulan power and just as likely to settle unaffiliated colonies out here as to move to the Federation-appointed ones from the Federation's half-hearted evacuation attempt. Additionally, we learn from the freed Borg drone Auxum that Species 8472 have open rifts to fluidic space somewhere in the Beta Quadrant, and that the Borg are in active combat with them in 2377. As such a location has not been encountered yet, we can assume that it too lies out in this direction, which is not a comforting thought. Beyond this explored area lies what I term the deep Beta Quadrant, and that really is unexplored space where anything could be waiting out there. So this area really is the frontier of Federation space. To the galactic south, we have even more unexplored territory, which might make for another good video, but that sort of makes sense to see on a map, whereas this isolated blob of claimed space always stood out to me as odd. It seems people have been settling or coming here for years, braving the Romulan and Klingon borders to get away from Starfleet. Over the centuries, the Federation banners have caught up as alliances and treaties made the direction of space ever more accessible. Natural hazards like the Shackleton Expanse and the limits of warp drive currently act as the curtailing factors, but even as early as the next generation, Starfleet is bent on filling out any blank areas of this map, regardless of how difficult to get to it may be. Thanks for watching this exploration of the Star Trek map. I'm thinking of following up with a delve into the southern exploration missions, as there is also a major swath unfolding territory below the Klingon Empire that the Federation seems to be claiming as it explores. Until then though, thanks for watching, I've been Rick, and I'll see you for another one. Goodbye.